Hello 7-9 students, this is Mrs. Cruz and I am continuing a video to complete the homework along with you. If you followed along with me yesterday, we completed the first 7 pages of chapter 1 of Roll of Thunder, and so the purpose for this video is to complete Tuesday's task. So if you follow along with me today, I'm going to look at pages 8 to 15 and answer another text-dependent question. So yesterday we were following the suggestion on making sure we highlight where we left off in green, just kind of as a recap. Then we were reading along, and as we followed along, anything that answered question number 1, we highlighted that orange. If it answered question number 2, we highlighted it purple, and then we were looking at TJ in yellow. So that's kind of where we left off yesterday. So let's find our place. If you guys notice here, it tells you the page numbers too. So let's keep going. Okay, so yesterday we were introduced to him, and we left off with this last idea where it says, just an idea, he was quiet for the moment. So I'm going to take away the highlight for this since we're going to keep going. But since our goal is to read, let's go back 8 to 15, then maybe we should make the next highlight right at the end of 15, just so we remember where we need to leave off. Okay, so here's 15. So I'm just going to make it at the end of this paragraph, just so it doesn't get cut off. So I'm going to put my green highlighting there, so we know where to go. As I mentioned yesterday, if you're reading this on your own, then I recommend that you listen to the audio. Since I'm pausing a lot, I'm reading it myself, but the audio is really good, so it helps you understand the dialect a lot. Just an idea, he was quiet for a moment, then announced, I betcha I could give you an earful about that burning last night. Burning? What burning? Asked Stacy. Man, y'all don't know nothing. The berries burning. I thought y'all's grandmother went over last night to see about them. Of course we knew that Big Ma had gone to a sick house last night. She was good at medicines, and people often called her instead of a doctor when they were sick. But we didn't know anything about any burnings, and I certainly didn't know anything about any berries either. What berries is talking about, Stacy? I asked. I don't know no berries. They live way over on the other side of Smellings Creek. They come up to the church sometimes, says Stacy absently. Then he turned back to TJ. Mr. Lanier came by real late and got Big Ma. Said Mr. Barry was low sick and needed her to help him nurse him. But he ain't said nothing about no burning. He's low sick all right, 'cause he got burnt near to death. Him and his 2 nephews. And you know who done it? Who? Stacy and I asked together. Well, since y'all seem to know nothing, said TJ, in his usual sickening way of nursing a tidbit of information to death, maybe I ought not to tell y'all. I might hurt y'all's little ears. Okay, so I'm going to pause there. It looks like the way it says that he nurses tidbit of information to death, that makes me kind of feel like TJ is on the nosier side and likes having information that he kind of like flaunts to other people. So that tells me a lot about him. Ah, boy, I said. Don't start that mess again. I didn't like TJ very much, and his stalling around didn't help. Come on, TJ, said Stacy, out with it. Well, TJ murmured, then grew silent as if considering whether or not he should talk. We reached the first of 2 crossroads and turned north. Another mile and we would approach the second crossroads and turn east again. Finally, TJ said, Okay, see them berries burning wasn't no accident. Some white men took a match to 'em. You mean just let him up like a piece of wood? Stammered Christopher John, his eyes growing big with disbelief. But why? Asked Stacy. TJ shrugged. Don't know why. Just know they done it, that's all. How you know? I questioned suspiciously. He smiled smugly. 'Cause your mama come down on her way to school and talked to my mom about it. She did? Yeah, and you should have seen the way she looked when she come out of that house. How'd she look? Inquired Little Man, interested enough to glance up from the road for the first time. TJ looked around grimly and whispered, "Like death." He waited a moment for his words to be appropriately shocking, but the effect was spoiled by Little Man, who asked lightly, "What does death look like?" TJ turned in annoyance. "Don't he know nothing?" "Well, what does it look like?" Little Man demanded to know. He didn't like TJ either. "Like my grandfather looked just before they buried him," TJ described all-knowingly. "Oh," Little Man replied, losing interest and concentrating on the road again. "I tell ya, Stacy man," said TJ morosely, shaking his head, "sometimes I just don't know about that family of yours." Stacy pulled back, considering whether or not TJ's words were offensive, but TJ immediately erased the question by continuing amiably, "Don't get me wrong, Stacy. They some real swell kids, but that Cassie got me about whipped this morning." "Good," I said. "Now, how'd she do that?" Stacy laughed. "You wouldn't be laughing if it had happened to you. She up and told your mama about me going up to that Wallace store dancing room, and Miss Logan told Mama." He eyed me disdainfully, then went on, "But don't worry, I got out of it, though. When Mama asked me about it, I just said old Claude was always sneaking up there to get some of that free candy Mr. Caleb gives out sometimes, and I had to go get him, 'cause I knowed good and well that she didn't want us up there. Boy, did he get it," TJ laughed. "Mama about wore him out." I stared at quiet Claude. "You let him do that?" I exclaimed. But Claude only smiled in that sickly way of his, and I knew that he had. He was more afraid of TJ than his mother. Okay, let's pause. So this moment's important because it's pointing out that TJ broke one of his mom's rules by going to a store that he's not allowed to go to. And in order to get out of that, he lies and says that he was trying to get his little brother out of the store. So I'm going to highlight that. It says, "When Mama asked," that sentence. And we are highlighting this one yellow. And I think that this shows that he's willing to throw his little brother under the bus to get out of trouble. And he finds it a laughing matter, even though it says that his mom wore him out, which means his mom really hurt Claude pretty bad. Okay, let's keep going. Again, Little Man glanced up, and I could see his dislike for TJ growing. Friendly Christopher John glared at TJ, and putting his short arm around Claude's shoulder said, "Come on, Claude, let's go on ahead." Then he and Claude hurried up the road away from TJ. Stacy, who generally overlooked TJ's underhand stunts, shook his head. "That was dirty." "Well, what'd you expect me to do? I couldn't let her think I was going up there 'cause I like to, could I? She could have killed me." Good riddance, I thought, promising myself that if he ever pulled anything like that on me, I'd knock his block off. We were nearing the second crossroads, where deep gullies lined both sides of the roads, and the dense forest crept to the very edges of high, jagged, clay-walled banks. Suddenly Stacy turned. "Quick!" he cried. "Off the road!" Without another word, all of us but Little Man scrambled up the steep right bank into the forest. "Get up here, man!" Stacy ordered. The Little Man only gazed at the ragged red bank sparsely covered with scraggly brown briars and kept on walking. "Come on, do like I say." "But I'll get my clothes dirty," protested Little Man. "You're going to get them a whole lot dirtier if you stay down there. Look." Little Man turned around and watched saucer-eyed as the bus bore down on him, spewing clouds of red dust like a huge yellow dragon breathing fire. Little Man headed toward the bank, but it was too steep. He ran frantically along the road, looking for a foothold, and finding one, hopped onto the bank, but not before the bus had sped past, enveloping in a scarlet haze, while laughing white faces pressed against the bus windows. Little Man shook a threatening fist in the thick air, then looked dismally down at himself. "Well, old Little Man done got his Sunday clothes dirty," TJ laughed, and we jumped down from the bank. Angry tears welled in Little Man's eyes, but he quickly brushed them away before TJ could see them. I think this is an important part too. So going back, if we didn't catch it, it's really important to reread. But we know that they're walking to school, and we see that Stacy's trying to get his little brother to follow him to the bank, but Little Man, this being his first day going to school, isn't quite understanding why he needs to go and get his clothes dirty. until he sees a huge bus it says spewing clouds of red dust like a huge yellow dragon breathing fire. So then he notices that like a school bus is coming. He tries to get out of the way, but the bus sped past him, enveloping in a scarlet haze, while laughing white faces press against the bus windows. So we see that there's like white faces laughing at him as it passes by, leaving him to feel really sad because, as we heard, he really cares about his appearance and making sure he looks really clean. And then TJ's reaction is to laugh, which once again gives us indication as to his characters. And even the fact that it says that little man has angry tears but doesn't want TJ to see them, I feel like that tells us a lot about TJ's character too. "Ah, shut up, TJ," Stacy snapped. "Yeah, shut up, TJ," I echoed. "Come on, man," Stacy said, "and next time do like I tell ya." Little man hopped down from the bank. "How's come they did that, Stacy, huh?" he asked, dusting himself off. "How's come they didn't even stop for us?" "'Cause they like to see us run, and it ain't our bus," Stacy said, balling his fists and jamming them tightly into his pockets. "Well, where's our bus?" demanded Little Man. "We ain't got one." "Well, why not?" "Ask Mama," Stacy replied, as a tow-headed boy, barefooted and pale, came running down a forest path toward us. The boy quickly caught up and fell in stride with Stacy and TJ. I'm going to look up tow-headed because it's one of those things where we want to make sure that this is an important word to understand. So tow-headed, it says having very light blonde or untidy hair. So I'm just going to add that into my notes. So it's a boy with like light blonde hair. And he's also pale, so keep that in mind. Let's keep going. "Hey, Stacy," he said shyly. "Hey, Jeremy," Stacy said. There was an awkward silence. "Y'all just starting school today?" "Yeah," replied Stacy. "I wish ours was just starting," sighed Jeremy. "Ours has been going on since the end of August." Jeremy's eyes were a whitewashed blue, and they seemed to weep when he spoke. "Yeah," said Stacy again. Jeremy kicked the dust briskly and looked toward the north. He was a strange boy. Ever since I had begun school, he had walked with us as far as the crossroads in the morning and met us there in the afternoon. He was often ridiculed by the other children at his school and had shown up more than once with wide welts on his arm, which Lillian Jean, his older sister, had revealed with satisfaction were the results of associating with us. Still, Jeremy continued to meet with us. When we reached the crossroads, 3 more children, a girl of 12 or 13, and 2 boys, all looking very much like Jeremy, rushed past. The girl was Lillian Jean. "Jeremy, come on," she said without a backward glance, and Jeremy, smiling sheepishly, waved a timid goodbye and slowly followed her. We stood in the crossing, gazing after them. Jeremy looked back once, but then Lillian Jean yelled shrilly at him, and he did not look back again. They were headed for the Jefferson Davis County School, a long white wooden building looming in the distance. Behind the building was a wide sports field, around which were scattered rows of tiered, gray-looking benches. In front of it were 2 yellow buses, our own tormentor, and one that had brought students from the other direction, and loitering students awaiting the knell of the morning bell. In the very center of the expansive front lawn, waving red, white, and blue, with the emblem of the Confederacy emblazoned in its upper left-hand corner, was a Mississippi flag. Directly below it was the American flag. As Jeremy and his sister and brothers hurried toward those transposed flags, we turned eastward toward our own school. Okay, so we notice there's a footnote here for Confederacy. So if you go to the end of the page, it says, "the group of southern states that became seceded from the Union." So this is going back to our setting and knowing that this is taking place in the 1930s. So if we remember in our setting, part of the 1930s said that there was segregation, which separated the education of black and white children. So through these context clues and knowing that he is a tow-headed boy, we know that Jeremy is white. And even though he's white, it says that he walks with them most mornings. Okay, let's keep going. the Great Faith Elementary and Secondary School.